Hello everyone, hope everyone's having a great day. My name is Neil. I have end-stage liver cirrhosis. I have hypermobile EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and a few other things that go with those particular diseases. So I kind of want to talk today about the medical system, about how to deal with it a little bit, especially when it comes to hard to diagnose stuff. You know your body better than anybody else. Doctors are there for sure to help you, and they're there to, they've gone through that schooling for a reason, and they have lots of knowledge. And there's good doctors and there's bad doctors, just like anything else. There's good mechanics, bad mechanics. There's, good cashiers, bad cashiers, so on and so forth. But the key is finding a doctor, especially a family medicine doctor that will listen to you and actually, take what you have to say and kind of think about it a little bit. I got lucky with this. My doctor has a nurse practitioner, and I see her, and then I also see the doctor there, but I see her more often. And so the reason why I was pushing to get checked for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is because, I developed this liver cirrhosis. I was diagnosed in 2022. I was pretty sick. I mean, I had fluid constantly building up. I was in the hospital for almost 6 months. I would be in there for 10 days, go home for 2, be back for 7. The longest stint days in a row, was 45. I actually had a chest tube in because my right lung kept filling up with fluid. A lot of times fluid would build up in your stomach when you have liver disease. Mine would build up in my right lung. It never really built up in the stomach. Guess I'm built different, but I hear that happens to some people too. So, I've been having trouble swallowing as well, swallowing food for the longest time. This actually started before I even was diagnosed or had any symptoms for the liver disease. And I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe, I had some kind of hiatal hernia or something like that was causing this. But it wasn't that bad. I could drink water and push food down. But every time I ate something, I had to take a drink of water and kind of push it down. So finally, I mentioned this to the GI doctor that I had at the time, but my local one, and they did a couple tests. They did what's called manometry tests. They put a tube down your nose and into your stomach, and that has sensors on it, and it reads how you swallow and stuff like that, the pressures. And then they also do what's called a barium swallow. It's where it's a time swallow. You swallow barium fluid, and they see how long it takes it to go into your stomach. And then they give you a tablet, and that tablet will dissolve after a while, but the idea is to see how long it takes for the tablet which would be like a solid food, to go into the stomach. Well, mine sat in there for 18 minutes before even going in, and finally he shut the machine off and just let it dissolve on its own. But anyway, so I've been having these swallowing issues, and I did these tests, and then I went back and he told me that I had achalasia, but didn't really talk to me much about it. Didn't say much of anything, didn't really get into what it was. He kind of, so what they did was they stretched my esophagus, and they injected Botox into it to make the muscle not to weaken the muscle, so it's not squeezing as much, which really didn't help. It might have helped a tiny bit, but it really didn't help. So this continued going on for another year, and it's just getting worse. So finally, they gave me a referral to a specialist, a motility specialist. And so finally I got in there, and then I got thinking, I'm going, this doesn't make any sense. I've got this liver disease, and then I've got this swallowing issue, and I've got these hernias. And I know you can get hernias when you have liver disease, but mine are inguinal, which are like the groin. And, they're quite large, and these started before the liver disease even happened. Not far before, but a little bit. And I'm thinking, all these things together, there's got to be some kind of commonality. There's got to be, sorry, I don't think that's a word. there's got to be some kind of, connection between the two. And, my whole life I'd been in pain, I'd have pain from my neck shoot straight down my backbone, all the way down to my shoulders, all the way down to my fingertips. And it was like all the time. Taking a shower, when I got out, it would hurt 10 times worse. Moisture in the air would make things really bad. And this started in my teens, and this went on for, years. And I went to doctor after doctor, and they all told me, oh, it must be stress or something. And so I ignored it, and I just assumed that everybody had some kind of pain. And, they're always in some kind of pain. Like, I assumed everybody was, because I was, So, but come to find out, that's not true. So, in the process, I finally did some research into it, and I'm taking these different things that I have, these different symptoms, and I'm kind of thinking, I know it's got to be something neurological, because I'll be hot and then I'll be freezing cold, and I've got all these other things, like my skin will break out and stuff like that at times, and so I started looking into it, and then I found out about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and what that is connective tissue disorder. Basically, it makes your connective tissue weak, so your muscles are all that really hold your joints together instead of that connective tissue. Like my shoulders would pop in and out just by moving them. My knees, my elbows, my finger, everything I can pull out of joint, stuff like that, and I could bend everything backwards, and what you would call double jointed. So I did some more research into it, and finally I went to my family doctor, and I explained it to her, and she said, she goes, well, your body better than anyone does. And I told her what I was thinking, and she said, well, that does make sense. And she ordered some tests herself that she could do, which came out negative, which if it was Ehlers-Danlos, all the tests will come out negative through the blood. That's done through a process of, they have a form that they do. It's called a Beighton scale, and it tells you, there's different questions on there, and you get a point system. And if you have this many of these particular things, they match up, and it's hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But there's many others too, so they do a genetic test to rule out those. And I didn't have any of those, which is good. So there's one that affects the heart. There's a bunch of different ones, and the hypermobile one is, from what I understand, the most common and also the most painful. But the other ones are more dangerous. There's no cure for this either. So, but in getting diagnosed with this, it helped me to understand why medicines didn't really work on me that well. I would take pain medicines, and they wouldn't affect me. They wouldn't do anything for me. I had such a high tolerance. Even when I was drinking, I had a super high tolerance to alcohol. And it's known that if you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, your metabolism works different, and it doesn't process these the same way. So you don't get the full effect. So, I don't get the full effect of certain medicines and things like that either. And so this also helps when it comes to things like it takes extra anesthesia to, or whatever they use right now, to be able to put me to sleep, to keep me to sleep. And by knowing that and by telling them this, now this helps them to understand, and they're able to. But this really came in handy, because when I went into this hospital last time, they did some checks on it, and one of the factors when you have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, your skin can tear, the muscles can tear, just like the hernias did, things like that. So they also have to be careful of that. So now they know to watch for certain things, which is great. And I owe this to my nurse practitioner, who took the time to listen to me, and she did a lot of research herself and asked around as well, and she went that extra mile to do that. And I am grateful to have a doctor group between, and the doctor that's there is the same way, that are willing to do this for their patients. So that is important. And I had doctors before that would never do anything like this, so I know what that's like. I know what being gaslit's like. Like going into the hospital and being looked at like I'm, absolutely fine, but yet, you're the hepatic encephalopathy, which is the ammonia poisoning in your brain, could be going on, but because you look fine, they assume there's nothing wrong with you. Because my vitals are fine, I get told that, oh, your vitals are fine, and then get pushed off and sit and wait forever. So that happens a lot too, because from the outside and from the vital standpoint, they may come out normal. Even when my entire right lung was completely filled with fluid, I was still pulling 98 pulse ox. And, but the point of this is, don't lose hope. Keep pushing on. If you're trying to get something diagnosed and you got something going on with you and this doesn't make any sense, now I caution you with the next thing I'm going to say. I would definitely recommend doing some research, but do not take it as that's 100% what you have. If you find something that makes sense, or maybe you talk to somebody and there's a possibility that those symptoms match, I'd recommend bringing it up to the doctor and just ask them what they think, and go from there. So it is important to work with that team so that you're not out just trying to self-diagnose yourself, because that doesn't help anybody. When you self-diagnose yourself, usually the doctors don't usually take that serious, because you haven't been officially diagnosed, and they have to base it on what they have in paper. It's not that they may not believe you. It's that, by law and by the different things, they're not going to treat you for, something particular that you think you have, and that there's no proof that you do, because one mistake could cause major problems. So there's reasons why they may not. So, but definitely do not lose hope. Keep pushing on, and I did, and it took a year to finally get to where I'm at now. I have this feeding tube in my nose, and it can be uncomfortable, but I feel so much better now that I'm getting nutrition. I'm on this formula, and the formula is fixed it's got the extra proteins that I need and stuff like that. So it's really easy to do, and I actually feel healthier now. I actually feel so much better now that I'm getting food, because I couldn't even, not only the swallowing, but the food that would go down, I'd throw it up, or I'd just wind up feeling full instantly as soon as I take a couple bites. I had no want to eat. I lost my appetite completely, and I kind of lost a lot of weight. And when I wound up in the hospital, I dropped, I'd lost about 40 pounds. I gained some of that back now already, so that's good. And it's been maintaining that. So, but definitely, be an advocate for yourself. Definitely, if you feel like something doesn't make any sense, it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. So I definitely recommend doing that. And just keep pushing on. Don't give up. It's a hard road, especially anybody that's ever been diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That's a hard one to get diagnosed for, because a lot of times doctors may not see it themselves, or they may want to do a blood test, and the blood test can come out negative anyway. So it is tough to get diagnosed, and there's very few people that do diagnosis for it, because it's not that common. It is more common in women than it is in men, and hypermobile EDS does have mobility. You know what I mean? There's other, it could have other diseases with it, like POTS, which is to do with your heart rate. It's a tachycardia. I forgot what exactly it stands for, but it has to do with your pulse jumping up real high and being flying high. You get real weak, real tired. Also, you can get mast cell activation, where basically your cells, you actually wind up being allergic to a lot of things, like perfumes, or like a certain shampoo, or maybe you eat something particular that maybe you've had 100 times, and all of a sudden now you wind up breaking out because of it, or something like that. So, but those are things that need diagnosed as well with it. So just because you may have Ehlers-Danlos doesn't mean you have those particular other things. So, but anyway, I'm going to bring this video to an end. Sorry if I was all over the page a little bit, but I thank everybody for watching this video and for taking the time to follow me and to like my videos and to comment on them. That's been wonderful. Anybody that's helped me with my GoFundMe, it is kind of hard to make ends meet, especially now that, you know, I'm paying out of pocket for insurance and stuff too. You know, but I make it by, I do. So, but I appreciate everybody's help, and I appreciate everybody's comments and the conversations I've seen in my chats. It's just amazing. So everybody, have yourself a wonderful, great day. Take care of yourselves and keep pushing on.